we'll know he's set up when it goes up on the screen. Let me introduce myself. I'm Don Hobbs, President of Success Enterprises, and to my right, to your left, ah, is Ben Fairfield, and Ben Fairfield is an amazing talent and actually the managing director of the whole coaching company, and just a great guy. We've known each other for some years, and we've now had the chance to work with each other for a few months, and we're very excited about all that's going on the success coaching side. We'll talk a little bit about that today, but today we really wanted to bring you some subject matter, something that can really help your life, that you'll get notes from. It can be a real program, and then give you some ideas of what you can do differently. Maybe take a look at your life and just see where where it's really going, where the direction is going, and how your business is doing, and to look at how you might scale that, change it, look at making adjustments that are going to feed your business and feed yourself, feed your brain, feed your family, of course, but mostly about your own business. Ben, I think you're through now getting that up. Let me give you a second to take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us about you and your background.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here. We're excited to see you. I see some familiar faces and names from yesterday's session, and people continue to trickle in here. So we're excited to continue the conversation that we started yesterday. Now, yesterday's session was 3X your business. Today, we're talking specifically about how to use a tool that we've developed to do just that. So my name is Ben Fairfield. As Don said, I'm the director of coaching here at Success, and we're excited to be here. I'm also a real estate agent and broker with EXPI, so I'm on both sides of that aisle, and I'm glad to be here representing both companies. We're glad you're here, and we're excited to dive into this. Here's what we know. We know that you in the audience are not just a real estate agent. We know that you are not just potentially a parent. We know that you are not just potentially someone's son or daughter. We know that we're all wearing multiple hats at all times. And so today's conversation is going to be, how do we grow in all of these areas? How do we grow our business? And one of the biggest myths is that if we just do more, growth is inevitable. And what we know is doing more is very rarely the right answer, because until we know where to direct our energy, our focus, and our effort, we can't possibly know what we need to do more of. And so we're going to talk today about a tool that's going to help bring you the clarity needed to make sure the growth that you're looking for happens, and that it happens strategically and consistently. So Don, I'm excited to be here with you. Let's jump into it.
Yeah, Ben, me too, with you, and we've got another session later, actually in about an hour and a half, I think. I can't remember if it's one after the next or if it's two after the next, but we'll be here again. We've got a session that, again, just building on what this is, and to give you some background on it, just let me give you just a touch of background on myself. I started in the speaking business, training business, when I was 18, under Jim Rohn, under the tutelage of Jim Rohn, next to a guy by the name of Tony Robbins. He was 17, I was 18, and we got a chance to work together for some years. This, to me, Ben, has been one of the most important subjects, not necessarily how to use the success wheel to 3X your business, but this idea about how do we gain clarity around what it is that's really going to move our ball forward, more down the field, straight down the field, instead of making these lateral moves where we take lots of time going misdirections. And it's been just a part of my life to want to contribute and give back to people. And so, being a part of Success and this new story, and guys, we just acquired this publication, Success Enterprises, in November. And honestly, it's been a remarkable story. And I want to remind you, this is ours. This is our company. Our company owns this. It's part of EXPI. When we're doing things, we're doing it with you in mind. We're thinking about it. Although it's not a real estate training company per se, we are in business with you, and we're right here next to you at Success is next to EXP. So very excited about that. We're going to go into this and give you let's jump into the first slide there, Ben, and let's talk about this perfection of imbalance, because one of the myths in I believe in life, not just in real estate, but certainly I've had a chance to train since my Jim Rohn days all the way through my Hobbs Herder days. Some of you may have met me there, and all the way through my days with MAPS, and the last 3 years being around EXP. I've trained 1.5 million people. One of the things that I've noticed is that people have this myth that what I really want is life balance. And we're going to talk a lot about the tools around this. But the reality is that you're going to be out of balance eternally. You're always going to be out of balance. And this little diagram here with the ballerina, I told Ben that I kind of relate, because while I've never had a tutu on, I have tried this exercise many times to get up on my foot. It first of all hurts like heck. And second of all, what you notice if you really look not at Don Hobbs, because he's not really good at this, if you look at the ballerina who's poised and seemingly perfect, what you're going to notice about his or her foot, maybe not the ballerina, but the male dancer, what you're going to notice is that their foot is not still. It's constantly balancing and rebalancing and out of balance and back in balance, but it's micro movements happening so fast. And that's where I think that all of us need to figure out how to be is how do we get out of balance, but move back through balance quickly, because that's what's happening. We're in it, out of it, in it, out of it. And what we really want to do, and we all know this, is what we really want to do is figure out how to do lots more business without interfering with the life that I've really intended. In fact, I told Glenn several years back when he attended a program we were doing, and I said, the business should always be for, giving the owner what the owner needs, meaning it's the real purpose of business is to serve you, the owner. And if it's not serving you because you're out of balance, you're out of whack, your life is not in order, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel great. And how long will you do it if it's not serving you? So what we really want to do is figure out how to get this imbalance to be, as helpful and not completely radical. And yet there may be some appropriate points, Ben, and I'll let you talk about that, because let's dive into the success wheel and talk a little bit about what we're seeing as we're building this exercise out.
Absolutely, Don. A couple of quick thoughts here on this concept of imbalance. So what people don't probably know if they don't know me is that I'm actually a licensed pilot and air traffic controller. I have a background in aeronautics. Now, what I know is that was a very expensive piece of paper that I got that I've never once professionally used. Yet, it does apply in situations here, Don, because what I know is that physics tells us that there's no such thing as being in balance or standing still. You understand, and I want you to write this down if you're taking notes today, you understand that we can't gain momentum while being in balance. We can't gain momentum without movement. Balance means I'm standing still, and nobody here, like we've almost quadrupled the number of people in the room since we started talking just a few minutes ago. So that tells me this is a subject that's relevant to a lot of people. What we know is you can't get to where you're going without being in some imbalance. And so what we're talking about today is how do we monitor, how do we manage the imbalance so that it doesn't go so far that something blows up or explodes, but we can redline it enough to where we can get the momentum needed to go down the path of accomplishing our goals. Now, one other thing I learned in flight school was that if we're taking off in an airplane and we're taking off from Seattle and going to New York, a lot of people think it's just a straight line. The reality is when you look at the flight path mapped out, it looks like a blood pressure line. It's all over the place. And what's happening is the autopilot is making course corrections. Every second, it's making course corrections, taking into account wind and the magnetic pole and all things that are happening. We don't even notice when we're sitting in our comfortable chair. We don't even know it's happening, but that plane is constantly being adjusted to make sure that the end destination is the intended destination. The success wheel allows you to do the same thing in your business. The success wheel allows you to see where am I in balance and out of balance, and how do I make consistent course corrections to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. So Don, we've developed this success wheel, and what everyone in here has probably seen is some version or variation of the life wheel. What you and I knew is that the tenets of that wheel were good, yet we also knew that you and I wanted to make some tweaks and some corrections. Right? And so with everyone looking here, and if you haven't, click on the stage zoom button there by the chat box, because I want you to be able to see this. What you're going to see on the outside, we have 5 major areas of the success wheel: business, purpose, wellness, relationship, and social. Right? We have all of this going on. Now, Don, when you and I looked at this, we said, now wait, there are some subsets there as well.
Exactly.
So you're going to see there's 10 subsets under those 5 headers. Now, for everyone in the room, everyone watching online, everyone that's participating here, we know that we have all of these areas in life. And we also know that at any given point in time, none of them are exactly at the same level. None of them are completely, quote, in balance. And one of the biggest myths in business today is that we ever can get to a point where we are completely in balance in all areas of life. You can't be all things to all people, just like you can't be all things to all areas of your life at the same time. So we have to really strategically take a real hard assessment. Where am I currently? where am I in balance and out of balance today as it sits right now? What's the reality of my situation? And then we look at where are we going. Now we can use this tool to see, okay, what areas do I need to pour energy, effort, and resources into in the coming month or quarter? What are your
Yeah, and
thoughts on that, Don?
let me jump in on this because I think this is really fun for people to look at, and that is, if you can imagine, we actually built it the way it's built for a purpose, and that is right dead center, go straight up to the top, and there's a little place where business and purpose meet. And the question is, when you get up in the morning, what's your first thought? Do you go towards business or do you go towards purpose? Right. So right off the bat, we know that even though these are all important things, which one is the one that's going to serve you best? Well, what if you're in towards purpose and you see that spirituality and growth and learning are on that side? What do you think that does for your life if that's where we start? Now, we're going to talk about how to build momentum today. And every one of these things needs to be a part of it in some way, shape, or form. But those are the first things that if I look at this and I say, do I turn right or do I turn left? If I turn right, I turn into the higher purpose. What am I really here for? What am I doing? And is what I'm doing now in alignment with what I'm really here for? And by the way, we're spiritual beings. At least I believe we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And while we're doing that, it's important that we recognize that these are the parts that are really making things happen for us. That's the inner working. And again, yesterday we talked about personal development was one of our pieces. We jump then into wellness because one of my friends, Brian Johnson, says, if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll make time for your illness.
Mm.
And one of the things that I definitely know is that when you get to health and fitness, and then by the way, fun and recreation, these are the things that enliven our bodies, give us more energy to business with. So again, imagine getting up and turning right. What am I going to do today to start my day off? I'm going to go through spirituality, through learning, through growth, through wellness and fitness. And I'm going to go through all those pieces. And by the way, then I'm going to come into relationship. I want to make sure I touch base with the people that are around me, love, relationships, family, friends, those people that are most important to us, which by the way, we say we're working for them, but many times we're so out of balance, we don't even see them, right? We come home and the dog's growling at us because he doesn't recognize us because we haven't been around, right? So then we get into the fourth part here, which Ben talked about, and that's social. And environment and community are very important. And yet when you really look at it, is that what really makes your world go? Maybe not, but what I do know is this: business, work, money, finance, those are things that are very much probably on everybody's mind in here. It's part of the reason why you came to figure out how to 3x your business. And what I do know is this: if we look at business directly, get up in the morning and go, let's go make some money. We don't nearly make as much money as if we go the opposite direction and say, what am I here for? Why am I doing this? Let's take care of my body. Let's take care of my family. Let's love that I'm around, and let's get some life that fuels my day that I go into now, called business, and into the community, by the way. So Ben, I just wanted to stop there. I'll turn it back to you, but you had flashed up another line here. It's kind of a fascinating line. What's that all about?
Right. So
Or you want me to?
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go talk about this line. You're in a flow. I'll jump in after you.
Yeah, so perfect. So again, imagine now that if this was the morning ritual, if you got up in the morning and said, how do I take care of some prayer and meditation? And how do I take care of some learning? Maybe putting on a YouTube or watching a video or listening to an Audible while, by the way, I'm working out, which is the wellness part and fitness. I'm running, I'm doing whatever it is that I'm doing for, health and body. I'm fueling myself with water and being healthy and all the things that are charging my inner environment. And then I go to the table and see my kids and see my family and hug and get the love and share some love. What do you think it would look like? What do you think your business day would look like? What do you think you're like in the community? That's the way your day started. What do you think would be happening? How many would think that it would be a more powerful day if that's the way you started it? You can raise your hand or you can put yes in the chat box. Oh my gosh. Did I say it wrong? Did I not?
They're coming. They're coming.
I was like, what? All four of you. That's awesome. The rest of them are going, no, I need to make some money. I got to get to the left side here and get some cash. But see, if we start off looking at the cash, what happens? That becomes our focus. And I used to laugh and say in real estate, I was said some people have commission breath, right? That's all we can think about. We're just going for the dollars. If we really build our life on purpose, on our health, on building the foundation for a great life, we show up differently. And as Ron said, I talked about this yesterday, Ben, for things to change, you've got to change, and you can have more than you've got because you can become more than you are right now. And that's going to be really focused on the right-hand side. So I just kind of want to make the point that if we start with that on tap, if that's our first start, then everything else starts together in the outer environment called the community, and certainly in our work, right? We show up differently.
Absolutely. Now, John, you made me think of something, and I want those listening to think through this. The biggest mistake most people make when going through a life wheel exercise and wanting to set goals and really charting the course to making the money they desire to make. The problem inherent in the process that's been taught for so many years is that we're not starting with what is a lead indicator. The Four Disciplines of Execution was a wonderful book written by the Franklin Covey Group. And what it says is there's lead indicators and lag indicators. So I'm going to give a quick example. First of the year, Don, everyone sets resolutions. The majority of the resolutions are what make gyms packed for the first 4 weeks of every year, right? They want to lose weight. And that's a great goal. Like if that's a better health goal, like that's good for you. That's awesome. The problem though is weight loss. The number on a scale is a lag indicator. It happens as a result of something else. Yet we are taught by society and a large part by the world that we should focus on that thing when the reality is we should focus on the leading indicators. And in this example, the leading indicators is how many calories I'm bringing into my body and how much I'm burning off through exercise. Those are the lead indicators, meaning if I focus on the things that actually are predictive of me hitting my goal, the goal itself will work out. So in this case, the problem with the way it's been done before, the reason we created this wheel as a variation of other ones that are out there, is you have to think of everything on the right side of this line. This is the foundation for your day. You've heard it said before, win the morning, you win the day. We have to start the day off correctly. We have to start on a solid foundation if we're ever going to have any hope of building vertical.
Now, by the way, how would you use this balance wheel, Ben? Because it obviously has some funny numbers on it and a bunch of categories, and we've given them what the categories are about. But what would we do with the actual wheel of life? How does this success wheel mean anything to somebody sitting here listening?
Yeah, and we're going to go a lot more in depth towards the end. For people that are with us at the end of our session today, you're going to see where you can jump on next week with Don and I for an hour. We're going to go deep into how to actually use this wheel so you can practically apply it. But the way this works in a nutshell is zero.
No. I was just setting you up. I was just setting you up to talk about what we were doing next week. Don't worry about it.
Okay, well, 0 is the middle, 10 is amazing. You go through and you rate each area, and we're going to talk about how to actually do that in real time for practical purposes coming up a week from today, Wednesday the 26th, which you'll hear more about here shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just teasing with you. I just wanted people to go, oh, there's something else. Yes, absolutely. So
but wait, there's more.
Yeah, there is more. And so next I want to talk about this idea because I've kind of brought up and we're kind of leaning in the direction of how do you make this balance wheel or this success wheel, if you will, far more important, the success wheel, an important piece. Well, how many of you would love to have momentum? There's a song that I remember from years ago, and many of you are too young to remember. And it was something about when you're hot, and when you're not, you're not. What is momentum, right? And what's interesting about momentum is I love to watch sports. I'm a big sports fan. And, if I'm watching basketball, I'm watching the guys pour into the arena and they've got come off the bus and they've got headphones on and they're looking like they're dressed up to the nines and they're getting ready to go in and perform, right? To make this game happen. If I'm watching a football game, the guys walk through the arena, walk through the stadium into the locker rooms, and they've got a pre-game ritual. They know that at 1:00 that whistle's going to get blown, the kickoff's going to happen. They know if they're in basketball that at 7:30 or 7:05, depending upon which stadiums you're in, you're going to get a game's going to happen, tip-off is going to happen, and I got to be in peak form. Listen, I'm a professional, but I have to be ready at that time. And so I want you to really think about how do you build momentum? What is it that they're doing? They've got headphones on. What are they listening to? I don't know. I would imagine it's probably some psychologist talking to them about the yips they've got over the free throws they've been missing. Or it could be, by the way, it could be some music that really excites them and gets their energy going. And then they walk in and what do? They change clothes. They go out, maybe work out. They maybe pump weights. I can't ever imagine that they actually work out where they go completely have a game that would seem to exhaust me for sure. And there's a ritual, right? There's a taping. They do this in order. They do everything the same way every time. Why? Because they know at 7:30 when game time goes off, They want to be in peak form. They don't want to be in peak form at 6:30, not at 9:30. They want to be in peak form at 7:30. So here's my question to you. What is your game time? Write it down on your sheet there, on your notes or your journal. Write down what's your game time, and you don't have to put it in the box, because for some of you this could be a little late, and we don't want anybody judging. But what is your game time? What time do you start in work? And like, what time do you have to be ready for game time? Is it 8:30? Is it 9? Is it 7:30? Heaven forbid it would be 6:30 or 7, but it could be early, depending upon how many time zones you're working in. For many of you, with your teams, your groups, your organizations, I want you to come up with a number. What's your game time? And then, Ben, let's flip this slide and let's go one more step, because what are you doing to prepare for game time? Now, somebody just said they wake up at 5:30, ready to rock by 7. So now what I want to talk about is, if game time is that time for each and every one of you, come up with your game time. What needs to get done between game time and that wake time? Meaning you're kind of running backwards and saying, what's important to me? What's going to really create the momentum for me? And so I'm going to go all the way back to the top, and I'm going to go through these in a little bit of an order to say that I'm going to wake early. What time? Well, it's going to be based on how long does all of this that you choose to have. This is just an example. And he says, I have no momentum. Well, we're going to give you an absolute way to create momentum, because I believe it is absolutely one of the most important things. And by the way, I've been talking team sports, Ben. You're into not gymnastics. You may be into that.
I'm going to say, wow, I am? That's interesting.
I saw you jumping around with your avatar. No, but to know that your boys were there last night doing their karate. I think that's what the discipline they're working on. But I think you're one of those. It's an individual thing. If I'm a golfer, it's a one man, one woman sport, right? I need to pump myself up. Serena Williams makes a great shot, fist pumps and goes, yes, I've got it. I'm back. We need to create momentum. How do we do that? This is exactly what happens. We go and we wake early. This is exactly what happened this morning for me. I woke really early. This morning I was up at about 4:45. I was stretching in bed. Allison's sleeping. She doesn't even feel me moving my body. I'm then go for some warm lemon water. It's one of the most important things to cleansing the system and starting the system off great. And again, these are my disciplines, not yours. They don't have to be yours. Yours are going to be yours. Then it's going to be about prayer and meditation. And what I realized there is this. Many people pray, and that's great because you're talking to God. Meditation is a little bit different. It's actually called listening to God. And I'm just kind of thinking it might be good to do both. But again, your philosophy, you're going to do your own thing. Then there's a gratitude journal. And I love starting off the day with coming up with something I'm grateful for, 4, 5, 6 things. It just energizes me. And so imagine the energy that I'm beginning to get. My body's moving. I'm fueling it with warm lemon water, which is a great conduit for energy. And then I'm moving through to the morning questions. By the way, if anybody wants those morning questions next week when we come together, I will have them for you and post them for you so you can actually take them with you. Protein, putting the first bits of protein in my body. Then I'm going to read. Or I'm going to listen to a book, and that can be done, by the way, in what Tony Robbins calls net time, no extra time. Why? Because I could be listening to a book while I'm moving, walking, working out, whatever that looks like. And then, of course, that's where the net comes in, the net inspired listening. And then the protein breakfast, I come back because I was only fueling my body to get the workout on. Now I'm ready for the day. I'm fueling my day. I connect with family. I put the question marks in there for anything that I've forgotten that lives. It might be part of your life. If you're into morning sex, that's a great place to put it, or maybe earlier. But anyway, somewhere in there. I can't believe I said that, Ben. I hope we didn't record this. Then we're going to dress for the day, and guess what? Game time is here. Now, if you've fueled your day like that, if you created a day that comes out of purpose and wellness and relationships, which is, by the way, everything that's here. If you fueled your day like this, how's your day going to go? What would you think? How's it going to go?
Guaranteed it goes better. It goes better than it has in the past. And Dawn, as they're typing in their answers there, I want to say one thing here. This is really, really interesting because through coaching, almost 9,000 hours of one-on-one coaching over the years, the number one biggest killer I've seen of momentum of individuals, or the thing that prevents momentum from taking off, is trying to compete with other people. We have to understand that the number one person we're in competition with is ourself, right? And what we're talking about here is, how do I build momentum? It starts by getting our own mindset correct, getting ourselves in peak state, setting the day up to win. We have to set the day up for us to win. It doesn't mean life's not going to throw things at us, but we have to stop comparing ourselves to other people. It's dangerous at these conventions where we see these people up on stage and we see all the good stuff, but we don't see any of the bad stuff. We see all the good stuff and we say, oh, I want that. But then we actually go into the application and the execution of it, and we see how difficult it is and how many starts and stops there are and curveballs that are thrown at us. We get discouraged and we stop. For us to build momentum, we have to realize that we have to stop comparing ourselves and competing with everybody else and focus on winning the game of our own life, winning the game by the rules we set, and it starts by winning the morning.
Amen. And by the way, somebody just asked the question, how long do I allow? So typically I'm up about 2.5 hours prior to, and again, some of that can be adjusted because it may be a shorter workout today. There are days that I skip a workout, like there's 3 days that I work out with a trainer, 2 days I work out by myself, other days I don't work out. So, it can be adjusted. Again, this was just a recommendation. Do we say everybody needs to follow this exactly? No, this has nothing to do with you. This is just a suggestion. But what I am suggesting is that it's important that you find out, how do you build momentum for you? How do you get ready for game time? Your game time, not my game time, your game time. Mine starts at 7 a.m. Monday through Friday because we run a clubhouse meeting. At 7 a.m. I got to be sharp and sounding good. So every single day, Monday through Friday, that's what's going on. So again, Ben, this is just a recommendation for everybody. Find your ritual. I know that the way LeBron James gets ready for his game is very different than the way Tom Brady does. What I know is that there's something that they've gotten used to that builds the energy to where when game time goes, whether it's a tip off, a whistle, whatever that first thing is, the bell in the ring for boxers, whatever it is, at that moment they're ready. They're on fire, and they're ready to go. So if you want to absolutely change your world, it's by changing your morning ritual, getting ready for the day. So you're really in full swing. You're not going, I haven't had my third cup of coffee yet, I'm not quite awake. That's not going to cut it. Not if you're a pro. Pros have a ritual.
Well, and Don, in talking about creating these rituals, I want to stress also the fact that we look at this slide, and there's a lot of things on this slide, and they're all wonderful things. And it can also be very overwhelming. If you type in the chat box right now, if you're looking at this list and you feel a little bit of overwhelm because you don't do all or a lot of these things, just type yes in the chat box really quick. Now it's easy. Look at all the yeses. It's easy to see this list and get so overwhelmed that we do nothing. So what I want to encourage you all to do as you're looking at this list, find a couple of these things that you want to put in place for the next couple of weeks. Do a short sprint. What we know, Don, is that if we took all these people, if they weren't avatars right now, if we were in a real room together and we went out into the parking lot and we would pay everybody $10,000 if they could complete a marathon, 26.2 miles. If they could do that in under 4 hours, we'd pay them 10 grand. My guess is the majority of the people in this room would leave empty-handed. The reason is we haven't trained for that. We haven't built up our body and built up the habits and routines necessary to be prepared for that. But what I also know, if we took this same group out in the parking lot and offered them money to sprint, everyone in this room could do it. So what I want to encourage you to do is set the course for the next couple of weeks. If you want to make this practical, if you really want to make this show up in your life, don't try to tackle all of it at once. Find 4 or 5 of these things that you can commit to putting into practice over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks. Start there. Build those habits. Get into that rhythm. Then and only then go in and pull a couple more to add into your routine. Don't get discouraged or overwhelmed looking at this list. Find the ones that matter most. Do a short sprint, instill those into your routine and habit, and then and only then begin adding a few of the others.
By the way, the beautiful part about what you said, Ben, I'm getting some feedback on you. Somebody's mic, I don't know if it's what's beautiful. Somebody needs to turn their mic off. I don't know who that is. Ben, is that you? No, maybe not.
I don't think so.
Okay, no, it sounds perfect now. What's beautiful about what you said is that, it's a matter of building a habit. This whole ritual, whatever it looks like, not mine, whatever ritual you perform, it becomes a habit, but it's going to build. And to your point, Ben, it's what do you want it to start with? How do you start building a ritual that becomes the basis for the momentum of life, right? To create what we want each and every day, at least have the best chance, right? Life gets in the way sometimes, yet we're going to be more emotionally equipped. We're going to be better equipped. I'm wearing my Aura ring, so I'm getting better sleep. Like I'm looking at all parts of my life to say, how do I get life in order so that I can be the best me that shows up each and every day. And that's all that we can do, right? That's what we know makes the best life for our family, the best way we show up as parents. To your point, the hats that we wear are many, and the best way to show up and have the most fulfilled hat wearing ceremony for each part of our life is by being the best that we can possibly be. So I want to jump to the next piece, because why is it we don't do all the things that we know we're supposed to do? Now, sometimes we get into the psych reasons, the inner reasons, the things that hold us back, those blocks, those barriers. And sometimes it's because we say, I don't have time to do all that. You don't understand my life. Well, I do. I do understand that there's people that I talk to on Clubhouse that are up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I know it sounds crazy to me too, but they're on the West Coast. And at 4 o'clock, they actually turn on Clubhouse and listen at 4 a.m. on the West Coast. And I'm telling you that it doesn't make any sense to me. I wouldn't necessarily want to have that be my ritual, yet for them, it's become their habit. So Brian Johnson, I mentioned him a little while ago. When I met him, the very first time I met him, he's a big bruiser of a guy. He's got huge arms, big chest, great, muscle defined legs. And when I met him, he was across the room. And I remember walking right up to him and I said, oh my gosh, what would it cost me how do I buy guns like that? And he laughed and he said, oh, it's a lot of work. And I said, how much work? Like, what does that look like? And he said, it's about 45 minutes to an hour a day. And I said, really, how do you do that? And what he said to me, I will never forget, but what he said, I want to pass on to you, because he said, it's just something I do. And what he meant by that, it's just my habit. It's just what I do. It wasn't what I do, Don's thinking, but it was what he does. And when this way of life becomes a habit, suddenly it becomes your life, it becomes your results, it becomes everything. But why don't we do it, Ben? Sometimes we get things that are in the way, that are our distractions, our squirrels, our bright, shiny objects.
Absolutely. And for a lot of us, subconsciously, we collect those distractions because it allows us an excuse as to why we aren't hitting the goals that we had for ourselves, why we aren't getting the results that we desire. For some of us, subconsciously, we look for these because it gives us an easy out.
Were you waiting for me? I don't know if I lost you, Ben, or if I lost all sound. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I wasn't sure if you had quit there. I didn't hear you anymore. And so, when I look at this as distractions, I was laughing. Actually, Ben and I were talking about this, I think it was yesterday. And I said, when it comes to distractions, listen, I don't need for you to distract me. I am plenty good at that. 6,800, an interesting number. The conscious thoughts we have in a day. By the way, that doesn't include the unconscious thoughts, which are in the tens of thousands. And by the way, mostly repetitive and mostly negative, which is very interesting. We wonder why we're not doing certain things. We've got this negative routine running through our heads. But 6,800 is the estimated conscious thoughts we have in a day. And by the way, many of them are my squirrels. So the things that I'm chasing that are keeping me from having a morning ritual, from doing the things that I want to do, from living the life I want to have. 28%, Ben, that number is an interesting number, because that's lost time each day with distractions, with multitasking, with so many different bad habits that I've got, the killers of time. And literally, when I look at that, I think about 2 hours per day of all my work hours, 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day on a long day. By the way, that's a quarter of my day. It's a quarter of the year. It's 3 months out of the year lost from distractions.
Don,
and by the way,
can I jump in here really quick? I want to talk through this real quick.
Yeah.
Now, here's what I want everyone to hear as well, because you and I, we just had this conversation with a coaching client. Here's what we know. A lot of people, when they're thinking of 3Xing, 5Xing, 10Xing their business, I don't care the number. When anybody thinks about growing or scaling their business, the number one thing we hear back from people is, oh, I can't do that because it would take too much time. Oh, I can't do that because I don't want to sacrifice time with this person or that person or this group. What we're talking about here is, how do we become better stewards of the time that we have? You understand that the elite performers have the same amount of time that you and I do every single day. So doing more doesn't necessarily require more time. It means putting our time to better use. So what would your business look like? Type into the chat box. What would your business look like if you took back 2 hours per day? Now, it doesn't mean you have to work 2 additional hours. It just means, what if you could just go home 2 hours earlier? What if you could be done with your work week by Thursday instead of working 7 days a week? right? How do we become better stewards of our time? That's what we're talking about here. How do we laser focus our effort and our focus to ensure that we're getting the maximum amount out of the time we're investing?
By the way, Ben, in our next session later this afternoon, we're going to go through a little bit of this, of what that's going to take. Like, how do you do that? So
Yes.
this will be an interesting exercise for everybody to come and then learn, come right back in the same room or be here, just stay here, and we'll be with you again. But that's going to be great stuff. I love that, Ben.
Yeah, just don't leave. It'll be easier. Just keep your avatar here and we're going to have more fun. Now, what about this number of distractions in a business day? This one blew my mind, Don.
Well, this is interesting because this came from a stat that really has to do with people in a business environment. Now, we all know that the last year has been very different, and we may not be in those work environments that we one time were part of. Of course, here at EXP, we know that we've got all kinds of work environments that we can use, mostly related to our home anyway, or a Regis. But this stat, 60, was the number of distractions in a business day, a typical business day in a work environment. Now, the interesting part is over 100. If you're an independent contractor in a business like ours, it's over 100 distractions a day. The number of distractions, number of dings and bells and whistles and things that go off on our phone that we're constantly checking in on our social media, and all the things that grab our attention, the number of distractions from people calling, texting, all those things, 100 distractions a day. And if you feel schizophrenic, that will tell you a little bit about why you feel schizophrenic.
Now it makes more sense.
Exactly. That's why you are. That's why you are, Ben.
Well, and Don, so
Oh,
in the chat, Remy said, do you have a set time to go to sleep, or are you committed to having a morning routine no matter what time you go to sleep? I'm going to answer for myself. You answer for yourself, but
I will.
I see this as seasons, again, sprints. I don't ever see there being consistency because I don't believe we'll ever get into balance, if that makes sense. And so, Remy, to answer your question from my point of view, there have been nights, especially recently, as we've been building a coaching company in like 3 months or 2.5 months. There have been nights where I've been up till 1 and 2 a.m. And I know Dawn has too, because we've been chatting at the same time. And my morning routine starts consistently the same time every time. I personally don't allow that to be an excuse, because what I know is I'm robbing from tomorrow if I don't start today correctly. So, Dawn, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, my thought is very, very similar. Actually, my Aura ring tells me exactly when my best bedtime would be, which is between 10:45 and 11:45. And I usually just snub my nose and go, that ain't happening. So, it is, for me, it's almost always that I'm running those kinds of hours because we've been on a sprint. Success, since we grabbed this 5 months ago, 6 months ago, we've been on a tear, just getting things ready for everybody, just getting things up for you. The things we're talking about in this room for the last 2 days, that's what we've been working on. So there hasn't been as much normalcy to the day yet. I agree with you, Ben. Starting at the same time, that's critical, right? That's my game time, period. Time to be a pro.
Absolutely. Now you got a couple good quotes here. Let's dive into those, because I would argue these are probably a couple of fairly smart people.
Well, I think the biggest thing that we discovered a long time ago is that, in order to get time for what I want to do, what I will have in my life, what I declare is right for me, I'm going to have to find it. We say, I haven't got time to do all that stuff that was on that list, or I haven't got time to make the calls I'm supposed to make or do all the marketing I'm supposed to do. I don't know how to find the time for that. Well, guess what? These people have the same amount of time. We have the same amount of time. You all have the same amount of time. And what we know is that we're going to have to say no to certain things. We're going to have to change our minds about what's important, what's priority, and say no to things that maybe in the past we've said yes to. Is it possible? Whoa, you might have to carry it from here.
Well, I've got two thoughts on that. And here, if
Who
you're
let the
taking
dogs out?
notes, if you're taking notes, I would write this down. There's two thoughts I have. First, we make time for what's important. So if you're like me, you've all had the opportunity or the experience to witness what happens when life throws you a curveball. Somebody we care about has an urgent need, whether it be health or whatever it is. But when somebody we love and care about needs us, it's amazing. We drop everything and we go to them. We were there for them. We make ourselves available to them. We make time for what's important. So the first thing, if we feel overwhelmed, we feel like I don't have time for all these things, the first question I ask myself, and the first question that I help my coaching clients look at is, okay, then what are you giving time to that you shouldn't be? Because we should never be in a position to where we feel like we have no time to add something. You see the quotes on this screen. You see the quotes on this screen. What I take from this, and I've heard this said before, and I'm sure you have, Dawn, is this: saying yes to a few great things requires saying no to a lot of good things.
Well, absolutely right. And just to kind of put an exclamation point, when I looked at Warren Buffett and he said, the difference between the successful and the super successful is basically we're saying no to almost everything. We're leaving room for the things that we've said is our real priority that will move our ball forward down the field. And of course, Steve Jobs also said focusing is about saying no. It's really about saying no to more. And truly, it's about saying no to more things so we can say yes to the things that we've chosen, like we're consciously choosing. Hey, let's do this. I want to. You're all welcome. You can blow this up, of course, do the little screen enhancement, blow it up, and take a picture of this. Take a screenshot. But this is a perfect weekly schedule. Okay, it's a sample of one. Doesn't mean this is yours, but it has. You'll see the early morning time is all the ritual things kind of put in there. You got green time. What's the green time? Well, that's making money time. That could be prospecting time. That could mean time with clients. Light green is setting up, making money. Green is actually out with clients, working on the dollars and cents. Blue, those little kind of powdery blue or whatever color that is, that's my flex time. That means time that I put on the schedule just in case something goes wrong and I need to move things around. I've got this flex box of time. I've got my prep time. I've got my marketing time. I've got all the different parts that make up my business. And yet most of us don't have time for a lot of this because we're doing other things. We need to say no so we can say yes to the schedule. And by the way, one of the things we know about the schedule, if it's not on your schedule, if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. So we like to set up the perfect schedule and say, this is what my day should look like. Now, how do I fulfill that? How do I live through this? How do I do that to make my days turn out the way I want? And I was thinking, Ben, we might want to kind of get a little deeper on this in our last session of the day. I think we might be able to incorporate that.
Yep, I was just going to say that, and I also think we need to go deeper into that. I'm going to go to our next slide really quick, as this is how you can continue this conversation with us. Absolutely free, no cost. We'd love to have you join us. And I actually live this. There's people in this room that have worked with me at other organizations. They've seen my calendar. My calendar looks just like this. I've color coded it. I'm very intentional with how I use my time because I'm not willing to sacrifice time with family. I'm not willing to sacrifice personal time needed to make sure I'm staying in somewhat of balance, right? I'm not willing to run myself ragged, but I also am unwilling to not hit my goals. And so how do we do that? How do we get the best of both worlds? It starts right here in how we're managing our time. And in my world, that means how we're using our calendar. And so we don't have time there today, but we will go further into that on our next session here today. And then we'll also talk about that on the screen you see a week from today, the 26th, 8:30 to 9:30. Scan that QR code or go to successwheelchallenge.com. We're going to do a Zoom webinar. Everybody's welcome. Does not matter what industry you're in, but we'd love to have you. We're going to go really deep into the success wheel. You're actually going to get a copy so you can actually go through the process of using it. And we're going to go deeper into how do we practically apply it. Anything else on that one specifically before we show them some of the other ways they can jump in with us?
No, not at all. Let's go because I want to make sure we clear the stage for our friends.
Awesome. All right, so the next thing we have, if you are looking for jumping in with us, we have an incredible group coaching course that's launching July 12th. This is an 8-week course. It's less than $300, and we have a master practitioner in neurolinguistic programming on how to better your consultations. It's called Consultations That Convert. And so if you're interested in that, outside of this door in the Expo Hall, the Success booth, actually the coach who's teaching it, Coach Eli, is going to be there. He'll answer your questions. But there's not one person in this room that wouldn't benefit from going through 8 weeks with Coach Eli. They're 90-minute sessions each week. You're going to get all these things on the bullet points. Bottom line, this comes back to momentum and using time more effectively. How do we convert at a higher level? Well, it starts with the language that we use and knowing how to get people moved from where they are to where we want them to go. So this course is for you. Now, Don, let's look at the next one too. There's another way people can jump in with us if they want to.
Absolutely. So listen, we've got a coaching program that we are very excited about. And I know we've got a time pressure to let our comrades come up on stage and share the next piece. I think Josh Ellis might be up next. But this is really a place where when we created this coaching program, we got in the room in a mastermind with the best minds in coaching, like from other companies, from other industries, from all around, and said, how do we help us? I mean, how to help us build the most incredible coaching company in the world that's never been built before, that clients are going to just completely benefit from and stay with. And we through a series of weeks, and Ben talked about the 2.5 months of development we put together. Now we've both built huge coaching companies, and so this is not a new thing for us, but we wanted to do something different that was going to be really better. And so if you're interested in being coached and understanding that no one can see their own blind sides, and knowing that accountability is one of the most important things that you could ever want to take on. And if we can't keep ourselves accountable, by the way, it's hard, it's very challenging, that we can use somebody else's outside energy to see what we're doing and to put us in a place to be, as your airplane example, more on point, less off point, Ben, more on the path to my success and faster. And this slide here is really a chance for us to look at the last event of the day, which is bigger thinking, bigger actions, and bigger results. And if you want to absolutely get bigger results, we're going to give you a formula for doing that. We'll go a little deeper into the schedule because that will be a big part of it. And then we're going to finish up this by saying, Ben, what are you saying, Ben?
Bam! Thanks for being with us today.
Hey guys, we loved having you come in here. We started with a small group and we've got quite a crowd. I hope you'll stick around. We'll be back up in 45 minutes, but for now, I know we have at least Josh and who's coming up? They on stage with us?
I'm here, and I believe TC Fleming will be joining me up here shortly. What a great presentation from both of you, and yesterday's was amazing as well. Y'all have you've been the stars of the breakout track. I'm glad, and I'm sure everybody in the audience is that you'll be back in 45 minutes.
Hey Josh, I just want to say this to the audience. If you don't know who Josh Ellis is, and obviously he's got a title and he's going to tell you he's the editor-in-chief. If you love Success Magazine, this is the man who's made it happen.